If you talk the talk, you gotta walk the walk. I don't know what you thought, but I've been taught by yahuwah, by yahuwah. I say by yahuwah, you know the all should die, and now y'all all should cry, because the real is back. I say the real is back. I took L's, that's facts, and yet still stand.
Some of you all have been asking me about the videos, okay? Where are the videos at? Are you going to put the videos back up, or whatever the case may be? So I think this is a good time to segue into the last phase of this message and kind of get into the meat and potatoes of what most of you all have come here to hear. Now, as far as the videos are concerned, okay, you know I have over 100 some videos that I have previously put out. So I have to go back and I have to clean those videos up. Now, the videos that I could clean up, I'm going to re-release those videos, okay? The ones that's going to be harder for me to clean up, I'm just going to redo those videos with new and updated information, okay? Now, the videos that, that are no longer relevant or in the vein or in alignment with the direction that I'm in and the brothers and sisters around me are in, those videos are not going to be coming back, okay? And see, one of the things that brothers and sisters have to understand is that when you are in a position of power, a leader, teacher, and the Father has sent you out here to be responsible for people's lives, you have to understand when you're responsible for people's lives, then you have to make sure that you're giving them the correct information. And if you're giving somebody some information that's not correct, when it's being brought to your attention that this is not right and this is wrong, you have to correct that, okay? Too often what a lot of these teachers do is that they know that some of this stuff that they're putting out is not accurate, but because they don't want to lose followings, they don't want to lose views, they don't want to, lose certain relationships with people, they just they allow the lie to keep going instead of going back and correcting it. See, I don't operate like that. Whenever something's brought to my attention that is not right, then I try to move diligently to correct those things so that I'm not misleading anybody. A lot of these people want to be in positions of power, want to be the men and all this and that, but I don't per se like to be. I don't want to be responsible for people. I want to be only responsible for me. So now that the Father has me in a position where I have to be responsible for people, I have to make sure that the information and the things that I'm doing is not hindering them or leading them down the wrong path. And if something wrong, I have to go back and correct it. So we got to have that spirit of David when Nathan came to him and said, the man I'm talking about is you. And he was like, oh, and he heard the correct thing. A lot of people don't have that ruach. They don't have that spirit. They just continue on like they didn't even see that they messed up. And let me say this. I don't care what teacher it is and whatever field it is. Everybody make mistakes, okay? Everybody make mistakes. I don't care what teacher you like or whatever. We all make mistakes, okay? You just got to be a bigger man to go back and correct those mistakes and, make those things right. So that's what I'm doing. Now, let me say this, because what I want to do now is I feel like I owe you all some type of explanation on why I myself and other brothers and sisters have moved away from the New Testament, okay? Now, I'm going to be doing precise and in-depth studies on all of these different angles that I'm getting ready to speak on. But what I want to do is I'm going to give you guys real quick an opening statement, okay? Just like you would do in court when you're taking a case to trial. You give an opening statement because we are in court, you know what I'm saying? And so just like the defense attorney would give an opening statement on what they're going to prove, and then the prosecutor will give a statement on what they're going to prove. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you guys an open statement on why we moved away from this New Testament, and all of these things that I'm going to touch on. These are all the things that I'm coming to prove. And I already got the information and all the understanding on all of this stuff already, okay? And so what I want you guys to understand is that this is not something that I just woke up and the brothers just woke up and said, this is where we at, okay? You may see over the last several months, a lot of videos have been dropping, but we have been behind the scene diligently working and researching this subject for at least 2 or 3 years. Okay, I know I've been on it for about probably almost 3 years now. Some of the other brothers might be in the 2-1 year range, but I know I've been on this for about 3 years now, cross-referencing, because I didn't want to just come out and say, okay, I see this is right. I wanted to thoroughly make sure that, okay, this is right, this is right, oh, this is right. And then when the Father's like, it's just time to move away from it, this is what it is. So this is not just something where we're just jumping out here and saying, you know, this is what the case is. Like you see with some of these false prophets out here, like that Tales from the Crypt looking joker, Edwin, this false prophet that's running around identifying himself as Yahuwah, human's vessel, and then that peon that's running around with him, the servant, or I call him Timothy, because the Tales from the Crypt think he Paul, and then servant think he's Timothy. You know what I'm saying? But both of these dudes are false prophets, okay? And I'm getting ready to address them at the end of this lesson, because their day and time has drawn near. They have thrown rocks, hid their hands, they've been sneak dissing, they have been picking. And so now I'm going to answer them today, and this is going to be the end of them. You know what I'm saying? So at any rate, let's get into this, right? So, you know, you hear people running around talking about, oh, they don't believe in the Mashiach no more, and this and that, and da-da-da-da-da. And that's silly, okay? I, nor none of the brothers and sisters that's around me that no longer believe in the New Testament are not running around saying we do not believe in the Mashiach, okay? That would be silly, being that Tanakh teaches us about the Mashiach that will come in the last days, okay? What we no longer believe in is the salvific son, this New Testament doctrine that has been given to us, because it doesn't align with what's in Tanakh. See, what a lot of people the reason why a lot of people are in this slump right now and they're mixed up is because even though they say they have come out the church, what they have done is they still follow Christian practices. When those preachers told you all you need to know is the New Testament, this is what people follow. They never went back to study Tanakh. You got to understand, you never start a book in the middle of a book. You never start a movie. You never start nothing in the middle. You always start from the beginning. And when you start from the beginning and you study Tanakh, you start seeing fast that this so-called New Testament and all of these fake fulfillment prophecies is not what was prophesied back in the ancient days by the servants, the prophets of the servants of the Most High, the prophets. Okay, so when we look at the New Testament, what is the New Testament doctrine? Okay, when we look at the New Testament, we're basically told that the Father sends Gabriel, the angel, to Mary, and he tells her basically that she's going to be impregnated with the son. The Father's getting ready to send a savior. He's getting ready to deliver Israel and all this other stuff, right? And so she basically asks him, well, how is this going to be possible, seeing I know no man? And he basically tells her that the Ruach is going to overshadow her and the Father is going to impregnate her, okay? Now, I have taught you this over the years and we have gone through this, but we got to understand that the man is the carrier of the soul. So what they call sperm today is actually the soul. The man is the carrier of the soul, the seed, okay? The woman is the carrier of the body, the egg. So when they say the egg, it's actually a body, okay? So if that sperm does not enter into that egg, then that woman discards that body every month. This is why the woman had that time of the month every month, and she's unclean, because she's getting rid of a body that's inside of her body. You see what I'm saying? And so, so when we understand that process, we understand that if the Father is impregnating Mary, he's basically putting that seed, that soul inside of that body. Okay? So basically, this is what Mary is told, that the Father's going to overshadow you, and what's going to come out of you is going to be holy, right? So then she gets pregnated according to the Gospels, and then she has baby Jesus, and then once she has the child disappears off the scene for 20-some years, and then he reappears when it's time for him to start his ministry. Now, he starts this ministry, which is a year or 3 years, depending on what gospel you read, okay? And he starts going through the town and telling people to repent, the time of the kingdom is here, and he's healing people and he's forgiving sins, okay? And he basically is telling his disciples that he's got to die, and he's going to be killed on the third day, and he's going to be resurrected basically to redeem all of mankind and all of this other stuff, okay? So then we get to the point where it's time for him to die, and he's hung on the cross with two other robbers or whatever, and he dies, and then he resurrects, okay? And so once he resurrects, he basically tells, he goes and meets his disciples and told them, see, I told you, I told you, you know what I'm saying, I was going to resurrect, And so he basically tells them to go out, make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, right? So then we move on to the book of Acts. So then once we get into the book of Acts, we see where Peter and Paul is pretty much telling the Jerusalem council that there is no salvation in any other name but Jesus. And I'm going to explain to you why I'm using the name Jesus. Some of y'all probably like, well, he's not even using the name Yahushua. Okay, it doesn't even matter at this point. But at any rate, he basically tells the Jerusalem council, there is no salvation in any other name but Jesus. You got to believe in the name and be saved. Okay, which was one of my favorite verses. Okay, so now, then Paul comes along. Okay, now Paul has some of a different doctrine. Paul doctrine, when you go into the book of Romans, chapter 10, I believe, he basically is saying that you have to believe on Jesus and believe that the Father has raised him up from the dead, you know, in order to be saved, okay? And he reiterates that in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 15, when he was speaking about if there's no resurrection, then basically the people still in their sins and all this other stuff, okay? So basically from that point, Paul is the last point of reference where he's pretty much telling us that, you know, we're going to be caught up when the master comes. Everybody that's alive is going to be caught up, and everybody that's dead is going to be raised from the dead. And then we 2,000 years up the road, and life has continued. Okay. So what is the problem with this story? Okay. First, when we start at the virgin birth lie, okay, there's nothing in Tanakh that shows that there's any prophecies concerning a virgin birth. Okay, that's number one. Okay, when you look throughout the entire Tanakh and all of these people that come out and try to defend that false doctrine of the virgin birth, the only verse that they have is Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14. That's the only verse in the Tanakh from Genesis all the way to Malachi that they have to support a virgin birth. Okay, and so what happens is, because I just watched this this dope fiend, this crackhead that's always running around talking about hypocrite and all this other stuff, and he finna get into he was telling the brother Frank that he was finna get into Hebrew scriptures and he was gonna do this and do this and do that. And I'm sitting here and I'm watching this joke. I'm eating the apple watching. I'm like, what is dude finna go? He spent, I don't know, about 30 minutes an hour hypocriting it up. Hypocrite. I'm like, where he finna go? I'm watching him. Man, the man went to Isaiah chapter 7. And if I'm not mistaken, he read one or two verses. He either read 13 and 14 or he read 14 by itself. And then he forced gumped it right on up out of there. You know what I'm saying? Right up out of Tanakh straight to the New Testament, to Romans and all this other stuff. And let me say this, okay? Because I'm hearing chirping, I'm hearing chatter where, you know, people are trying to compare the New Testament, because we know the Gospels and things like that are anonymous. So they're trying to compare that with the Old Testament. So let me explain to you guys what the word of the Most High is, because I think people get lost on this and they run to the New Testament and they think that this is authoritative and Mark said this and John said that and Romans said that, but we're telling you that it's fake, so that means nothing. You got to verify that stuff first before you start attempting to try to use that, you know what I'm saying, as the word of the Most High. But let me explain something to you, because people have a hard time differentiating and understanding what the word of the Most High is, okay? When we look at Tanakh, okay, because I hear people saying, well, they say the same thing about the books of Moses. Moses didn't write the books. Well, one thing we have to understand is that Moses never said or said that he wrote the books. Okay? If we study Tanakh, see, these are people that don't study Tanakh. They are unskilled, unlearned peewees, like I told you before, right? When you look at the first 5 books of Moses, what does Tanakh teach us? It teaches us that when we go back into the book of Exodus and we look at the account where they made the golden calf and Moses had went up on the mountain to get the commandments, Tanakh teaches us that the Father wrote and gave him them commandments. Because when he came down and he broke the stone tablets, what did the Father say? Bring the other set of tablets and I'm going to write them like I did the first time. So when Moses went up into the mountain, he was there for 40 days and 40 nights. The Father gave him that law that you see in the book of Exodus, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy, and Numbers, okay? He gave him that. So Moses is just a transmitter. He's just the one that gave it to the people. He did not write that. He wasn't sitting up here like you see these people talking about they inspired in the fight and all this other stuff they doing this and that. No, the Father dealt directly with Moses and he gave him and told him, do this, do this, do this, and do that. You see what I'm saying? So he's not the author of it, and he never purported to be the author of that. Okay. Secondly, the word of the Most High is the things that Yahuwah spoke. Thus said Yahuwah. So when you go into the book of the law, and Moses said, this is what Yahuwah has said. Okay. Not what Moses said, what Yahuwah has said. When you go into the book of the prophets, okay, Ezekiel, Isaiah, they're going to the people with the word of Yahuwah. This is why he told Jeremiah, take the word to them. Don't add anything to it or take anything or take nothing from it. Take my word to them. That right there, beloved, is the word of the Most High. When you get into the New Testament, that is not the word of the Most High. You have anonymous gospels that are allegedly witness accounts. That's not the word of the Most High. Okay? When you get into the writings of Paul and letters that he's writing, that is not the word of the Most High. Nowhere in none of those writings do you hear, thus said Yahuwah. The only thing that they allegedly have the Father saying is at the baptism, oh, this is my son, my beloved son, who I approve of. That's it. None of that stuff is thus said Yahuwah. So that's not the word. So when you guys run to the word and, when you guys go into the Bible, you got to be able to know how to differentiate the word of the Most High, Tanakh, from the New Testament, which are anonymous documents from whoever. We don't know. But it's not the word of the Most High. So when you run to Romans and the so-called book called Matthew and Luke, and, oh, well, they said this and was shit. Come on, man, that stuff don't work. It means nothing because we're telling you that it's fake. And it's not the word of the Most High, so it holds no authority. The authority is in Tanakh on what the Father spoke. Okay? And it's sad because getting back to this character, it shows you how here's a guy that's supposedly been in the truth for over 10-some years and they just dumb as a box of rocks. Unskilled and unlearned, whatever it comes down to Tanakh, because you know why? They've been playing church, and these prophets that they follow have been preparing them for doomsday, a fake doomsday. And so they waste all these years not learning, and then when it's time for you to get in the book, this boy, he fake a move like, oh, I got these scriptures, I got this. Oh, I ain't got, man, you ain't got nothing, man. Sit down, man. Pump fake it, man. In the way. You know what I'm saying? But at any rate, when you go into the book of Isaiah chapter 7, right? When you read that verse, that entire chapter in context, it shows you that it's not speaking about any future prophecy, but a prophecy that was of that day. Okay. And I'm going to do a breakdown on that on the virgin birth. And it's not going to take 2 and 3 hours like you see this false prophet Tales from the Crypt over here trying to do. You sitting over here for 2 or 3 hours trying to break down the virgin birth. And then this is what they do. All of these teachers that believe in these messianic movements, watch them. Go watch their lessons. They all do the same thing. Now, Tales from the Crypt try to act like he was doing, like he was really breaking this stuff down, but then he faked the move too, because what you're going to always notice about these people, they're going to always stop at verse 14. That's it. They're going to stop at 14, and they're going to take you to Genesis, and then they're going to take you to Romans, and they're going to take you, let's go to the book of Luke. Because if they keep reading, it's going to prove and show you that this is not talking about any future prophecy of any virgin birth. It's speaking about the days and times of Isaiah, and I have a lesson, and I believe it's coming right behind this, where I'm getting ready to break that down, and it's not going to take 2 and 3 hours. I'm not going to use all this witchcraft and sorcery and go here, this is a mirror of this, and go here and go there, but they never keep going. Go watch that trash that boy put out. That man tried to break this down, and it was a double prophecy. He rejected the first prophecy and stopped at 14, didn't go below 14. See? Because they know that it's going to prove that this stuff they're talking is a lie. Okay, so there is no prophecy in the Old Testament or in Tanakh about any future prophecy of any virgin birth or any salvific son coming via the virgin birth. This is why when you look at the New Testament, okay, and I'm coming with the lessons on that on the breakdown as I'm getting ready to show you in that series, Examine the New Testament, the development of the New Testament, okay? Because all they did is they gathered a bunch of these books from all of these different communities. They want to make it seem like, oh, all of this stuff is in harmony. And this is why you have all of these inconsistencies, because this group believe this group believe this group believe that. It would be like today, if you take something from me or you go to another ministry and take something from them, everybody's going to be teaching and believing different things. You know what I'm saying? To a certain degree. So when you look at the book of Mark, which is the oldest gospel of all of the gospels, it's the gospel that Matthew and Luke borrow from and try to improve. And so when you look at the gospel of Mark, what do you notice? No virgin birth and no resurrection. Okay, so what? And also when you look at the book of John, there's no virgin birth there, because see, what you got to understand is that the book of John is more, like I said, I'm gonna go more into this. This is just an overview, an open statement, okay? But I'm going to break all of this stuff down. When you look at the book of John, it's more of a Gnostic text. When you see like the word, I am the word, and the beginning was the word, and all of this stuff. When you look at Matthew, Mark, and Luke, you don't see all of that in there. Okay. So when you look at the book of John, you got to understand, when you go back and study the history, there was a doctrine of the logos of the word. It's a doctrine of that, okay, which originated with Philo of Alexandria, which was a Hellenistic Jew that blended Tanakh with Greek mythology, okay? So when you go, you can just look this up, the Philo and the logo doctrine. So this was a doctrine that already existed. So when you get into the book of John, and it said was in the beginning was the word, that is the origin of that. It comes pretty much from a Gnostic community. So they don't have the virgin birth in there because they never believed in a literal virgin birth. Everything is like an image. And so this is what you see when you hear people saying, well, this was an image of this or this was an image of that. Nah, you can always say this was an image of this, image that. We want chapter and verse. This is all we want to see. All that, this is a mirror of this. This is where that originate from. So when you look in the book of Mark, in the book of John, there is no virgin birth. So Matthew and Luke are copying off of Mark and trying to improve it. Okay, this is not even up for debate. This is stamped. This is merged. So what happened is that when you go back into time, the original Christians or whatever they want to call themselves was the Gnostics. This was the first group, and then Catholicism took over, the Roman Catholics. Okay, so when the Roman Catholics come in, what do they believe? They believe in the Virgin Mary. This is why the Pope goes and bows down to the Black Madonna, the black woman and the child. They haven't changed from what they believe in. They still do this. Okay. So when Catholicism took over, they had to find a way to get the virgin birth into the story to be like, okay, well, so they're adding to that story. But where they mess up at is that when you go into the book of Luke, right? Okay, when you go into the book of Luke and you go into Luke chapter 1, right? And it's breaking down about how the Malach Gabriel is going to Elizabeth and he's going to Mary. Okay, one of the things that hold on, but one of the things that Luke is bringing out is that it says that the angel went to Elizabeth and told Elizabeth that John was going to be receiving the Ruach straight from birth. Okay, and so it brings out that when Mary came into the house 6 months later or whatever, that when she came into the house and she spoke, the baby John received the Ruach, right? And so it's a couple ways that we can look at this, okay? We know that she was pregnant with baby Jesus, so either baby Jesus anointed him with the Ruach in the womb, okay, or Mary had the Ruach on her and she anointed with him. Yeah, well, however way you want to look at it, he got anointed from the womb so that it could be fulfilled that he had the Ruach straight from birth, right? So if Mary has the Ruach inside of her, mind you, that the Father has impregnated her womb with the Ruach HaKodesh. That seed is inside of that body. If Jesus already has the Ruach, why does he have to be baptized again to get the Ruach again? This is why I said, so the man disappeared for 20-some years. We don't know what was going on with him, because obviously he didn't have the Ruach, because we know that he didn't get the Ruach until he went and seen John, because it said when John baptized him, the heaven opened and the Ruach descended like a dove. So what did the Father put in Mary's womb? If he put the Ruach inside her womb, why would he need the Ruach again? Why do he need the booster for? You see what I'm saying? So John has the Ruach straight from birth, but the person that's giving you the Ruach, so that you have the Ruach when you come into the earth, they don't got the Ruach. They got to come back and see you to get. But this is the Catholics trying to get that story in there so that they can continue to spread this false lie of a virgin birth all throughout the earth and it's faith. You know what I'm saying? So I got a study that's coming on this. It's going to be, I'm finna just crush it because it's simple. You know what I'm saying? Everything that all these messianic movements, all these groups that believe in this virgin birth, the only leg they got to stand on is Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14. And once we debunk that and show that that's not speaking about any future prophecy, you have no perfect sacrifice, as they say. You know what I'm saying? None of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So let's keep it moving. And then let me say this to the people out there who don't believe in the Christian doctrine of the virgin birth, that believe that Joseph is the father. These people are really lost. You know what I'm saying? Because what are you saying? If you had the union of the man and the woman sleeping together, what difference is that for Moses or anybody else? They had the Ruach. How do you got a perfect sacrifice and all this other stuff? You know, since in order to stay in line with the Christian doctrine, you have to hold to those practices. When you start altering that, then none of this other stuff makes sense. How do you have a perfect sacrifice for a man that was just a regular man that just had the Ruach on him? I mean, like, it gets stupid after that. You know what I'm saying? So no virgin birth. Then we're told that the Mashiach went and was moving throughout the land, healing people and forgiving sins. Okay? Now, where in Tanakh does it tell us that the Mashiach is going to be moving throughout the land and healing people? It's not there. There's no prophecies of any coming Mashiach moving to and fro through the land, healing people. Okay? Where you get this story from, it comes from out of Egypt. The followers of Serapis, the therapeutics, this is where this stuff comes from. All of this stuff comes out of Egypt. The entire doctrine comes out of Egypt. And I'm getting ready to show you this. It came from the therapeutics. Those were the original, those were the people that followed Serapis. And what is his name? Asclepius or whatever his name is, the guy with the rod with the snake on it. This is the same thing you see throughout all of the hospitals. He was a god of healing. This is what Jesus was doing. Okay, moving through the land, healing people. And you can also go see in the writings of the ancient Roman historians where Titus did the same thing. They said Titus went and healed a blind man and healed a guy who armed himself was messed up. So what is the difference? These people were following that doctrine. There's nothing in Tanakh that's saying that when the Mashiach comes, he's going to be a healer. It's not there. Okay? And then it doesn't say he's going to be moving to and fro throughout the land forgiving sins. And if you think about it, what major sins did Jesus ever forgive? Think about that. The people that he was, oh, your arm is bristled up. Oh, your faith has made you whole. Your sins have been forgiven. What? What serious sins did he forgive? And you can't say, oh, well, he forgave the adulterous woman, because we know that that's a lie. That's not even in the ancient manuscripts. So no adultery, no murder, no idolatry, none of the major sins that he had the power to forgive. He forgave none of that stuff. Everything is a centurion came to him, his daughter was sick. Oh, your faith has made you whole. What? Where does it say believing in the Son of God? Where's this stuff at in Tanakh in the prophecies? It's plenty of prophecies. Where is this stuff at? And it's not there. And see, people don't study Tanakh, so they don't know and understand this. You know, people might say, well, he forgave the robbers. He forgave the robbers. When you study Tanakh, we know that this is something that most likely, I'm going to say 99%, didn't happen. How do we know this? Because in Tanakh, there's laws for robbery, okay? Now, what Tanakh does bring out is that if somebody got caught in the midst of a robbery, they was trying to rob or steal something from somebody and got killed in the process, then that's perfectly legal. But if somebody robbed somebody and got away with it, then they were to pay the thing back. So it's highly unlikely that robbers was being crucified for robbing and stealing. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no law for that. You know what I'm saying? And but so you're telling me you're gonna crucify the robbers, but then you're gonna let the murderer go? Like, come on, man. It's all theater. It's Greek mythology. It's made up. It's fake. You know what I'm saying? Now, the other thing that I want to touch on is that where does Tanakh teach us that we need a Mashiach to save us from sins? Where is that at? For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son, so whoever believes in him shall not see death. Where is that at? It's not there. I'm going to teach you this also. When you go into Tanakh teaches us when it speaks about salvation, do your research. Okay, and it don't matter if you do it or not, because I'm bringing the receipts anyway. When you study Tanakh, it teaches about, when it speaks about salvation, it speaks about the Father delivering Israel, the physical people, from the lands that he scattered them from. This is why these people have gone out the way to hide our names. See, the Father has already told us. Check this out. The Father has already told us when he gathered us from these places. Go read the book of Ezekiel. He's going to bring us into the wilderness where he scattered us from, and he's going to enter into judgment with us. And then before he sent us back into the land, then he's going to sprinkle us with clean water. So what is all this? I've been baptized. I'm saying, ain't none of y'all saved. Ain't none of y'all baptized. It's all theater. Just check the credits. It's there. It speaks about the Father delivering the people not to sin. The Father's going to forgive his people for the sin. He already said that. He don't need any salvific son coming and dying for no sins. Because he already said when the people turn back to him. Go read Isaiah 59. Go read the book of Malachi. This is why they try to throw John the Baptist into there. Because the people that's the snake handlers, they know this stuff. So they's like, okay, we know the Mashiach ain't coming until, so they try to throw John the Baptist into it. But what do we understand about that? Because they try to make it seem like John the Baptist is fulfilling the prophecy where it says that because the Mashiach is not coming until the people turn back to the Most High. Then he's going to send the Mashiach. And when you look at John the Baptist in the days and times of the Mashiach, what does it tell you? It tells you that the people never actually turn their hearts back to the Most High. This is why when the Mashiach, or the salvific son, as they say, was moving through the land, what did it say? It said he went to the, let me pull that up real quick. Let me pull it up real quick. Let me pull that, let me pull this up real quick. Okay. Let me pull this up. This is in, let me see here. Matthew, I know it's Matthew, what is it, 12? Let me see. Let me pull this up. Yeah. All lies, man. All lies. When you go to, let me see here. Where is this at? Okay, Matthew chapter 11. I knew it was one of them, 12 or something. But when you go into Matthew chapter 11 and you started at verse 20, what does it say? Then began he to upbraid the cities wherein Moses' mighty works were done, because they repented not. So how is this a fulfillment of prophecy where the people turn back to the Most High? Because what people got to understand, what is the great day of Yahuwah? The great day of Yahuwah is when he paid back the nations for touching his physical people, Israel. Okay, now I know a lot of people hate that, but it's okay. Okay, it's okay because I got the lessons that's coming on that. I'm getting ready to lay it all out. Okay, and I'm giving y'all a head start. To those of you that want to try to move in front of me, that's cool. Okay, but this is what Tanakh teaches. The salvation in the Old Testament is speaking about the deliverance of the nation of Israel from the lands that the Father scattered to them, not for the world and all this other stuff, because the Father already told you he's going to deal with these nations. He already said that. Okay, and they're trying to prolong that by having you looking at the 2,000-year reign and all of this trash and Revelations. Listen, it's fool's gold, and I'm ready to break and crush Revelations real soon. Just stay tuned. Okay, so that's a lie. You know what I'm saying? And when you just start looking at all of this stuff, they say that he was supposed to die and resurrect on the third day. Where's the prophecies at on that? There's no prophecies on none of that stuff about the Mashiach dying. All they have that they try to use is Isaiah 53, which is a misinterpretation of Isaiah 53. Okay, think about that. This is all they got. So once Isaiah chapter 7 verse 14 is debunked, and Isaiah 53 is debunked, it's over with. What do they have? They have nothing else to stand on out of all of the prophecies in the book. Okay, so nothing about a second coming of the Mashiach and all of this other stuff. It's all trash. Okay, now the last thing I'm going to say before I move into the last phase and get to these false prophets is that I did a lesson, right? Because if you guys remember, there was teachers that was proclaiming the name to you. I'm the one that taught you the name of Yahuwah and Yahushua, okay? And I'm here to tell you that the name of the Father is Yahuwah and the name of Joshua is Yahushua. But where the problem is that I did a lesson titled, Where's Jesus? And those of you that's been around, you watched that video where I take you back into the old manuscripts and show you that name, Jesus, is not there, okay? But where I messed up at is that when you look at the ancient manuscripts, there's no name in those manuscripts. There's no Jesus, where they getting Jesus from. There's no Yahushua, no Yahweh. None of those names are there. It's a nomina sacra. And I'm going to break the nomina sacra down because this is a sign and symbol that's been around for years, way before the times that they claim that the Mashiach walked the earth. Okay? So if there's no name in the manuscript, and we're not to annotate anything from the word, how are you putting a name into something that's not there? You're basically taking a blank check in case already anonymous, then there's no name in there for the so-called salvific son, and then you just put a name in there. You can't do that. There's no name on those gospels, and there's no name in there for any salvific son in none of the writings. People are just adding names. This is why you got all of this confusion. Oh, I'm using Jesus, or I'm using Yeshua, or I'm using that. Man, we're getting away from that because it's all trash. There's no name in there, and that's just what it is. Okay? And so what you got to understand with these scholars is you never really hear the scholars too much talking about this, because if they do that, then it's just going to be a mad exodus out of the church, and there's nothing else to talk about. See, they got to make money off of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to keep talking about this point or that point, but it's just to make money. But they know this stuff is fake. Okay? Most of these scholars are not no real diehard church followers and all of this stuff like you see in the church while people is tied in that. You know what I'm saying? So you got to understand that that's a lie. So it don't matter if you use the name Jesus or whatever name it is, because there's no name in those manuscripts. So you can use whatever name you want to use. Ain't no name there. Okay, and to put a name in there is adding to the word, and it's simple as that. And when you go look at the manuscripts from the 2nd and 3rd century, and most of them from the 4th century, all of the ancient manuscripts that's being recorded to our New Testament has no name in them. And the thing that's funny is I look for anonymies, okay? And one of the things you got to understand is that all of these ancient manuscripts being recorded to the New Testament come out of Egypt, all of them. Okay, you have nothing in the so-called Bible Belt. You have nothing in Rome. You have nothing in Ephesus, Corinth. All of this stuff they got out of Egypt. They either bought it. They bought most of this stuff from antique dealers. You know what I'm saying? So if somebody is selling you something, they're not looking at this stuff as any value if they're selling it to you. Why don't none of the churches in Egypt have this stuff if there was so much of the word, you know what I'm saying, or whatever it is? All of that stuff come out of those mystery schools in Egypt. And it's simple as that. When you look at all these ancient manuscripts from the Boudiers, the Bodemirs, and the Chester Beatty and all of this stuff, those documents were bought from antique dealers. I'm going to bust all that stuff up. So that's just what it is as far as the New Testament is concerned. Now, people may say, well, why did they do that? What was the purpose of that? It's simple. When you go back to the time, this is why you have to study Jewish history. These teachers want to run you into the church fathers and church history. You got to go back to Jewish history to understand what was going on. You had the rise of all these different so-called Mashiachs, people that were rising up because they knew that the Mashiach was coming in the last days, and they thought they were in the last days. So whenever you had these uprisings with these leaders and stuff that was trying to get from under the Roman rule, they was killing them, getting them out the way. This is why when you go into the war scrolls, you see the time where our ancestors was warring with the Jews trying to get from up under their rule, but they didn't understand. This is why when Josephus said when he defected, he understood like the Father went with them, and this wasn't the time. This is why he told Titus, oh, you the Messiah and all this other stuff to save his life. And he was, one of the reasons why he was able to write the church history and kind of preserve some of the history. You see what I'm saying? And so that's what was going on. So this is why they gave you a Messiah to stop all the uprising and the leaders and things like this. This is why whenever you see any Israelite, any of these leaders raising up, the Martin Luther King, they get them out the way. You know what I'm saying? Because they know and understand what the prophecies is. So I'm going to be going in and breaking all of that stuff down. Now,